more than half of men that we see need testosterone, regardless of any lifestyle changes they might be able to make. And then the testosterone itself gives them added motivation and energy to pursue those additional lives. So it's a double whammy. You feel better, you have more energy, and now you have the motivation to go make additional changes. And it just builds and builds on itself to where you become, within a relatively short amount of time, not unrecognizable to those who've known you for 20 years. But for those who haven't known you for 20 years, they're like, who is this guy?
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rise and Grind. Of course, I'm your host, Thurl Bailey, and today we're going to dive into what I feel is an essential and often overlooked topic, men's health. Joining me today is Jon Benson, the CEO of Gameday Men's Health Utah, a revolutionary network of clinics dedicated to empowering men to take control of their health and well-being. In a world where men often prioritize everything but their own health, Gameday is redefining the conversation around topics like low testosterone, erectile dysfunction or ED, and just their overall wellness. Jon's mission is to create a comfortable, discreet environment where men can access personalized care without the stigma often associated with these conversations. In this episode, we'll explore Jon's journey in the field of men's health, discuss the crucial services Gameday offers, and highlight why it's so vital for men to make their health a priority. From hormonal optimization to lifestyle changes, look, we're going to cover it all. So, whether you're a man looking to improve your health or someone who just wants to better understand the challenges that men face, you don't want to miss this insightful discussion. So let's welcome right now Jon Benson to the show. Jon, how are you today?
Doing great, Thurl. So great to be on with you today.
Good. It's great to have you. I think the best place to start is really your own journey into men's health. Can you share what really motivated you to enter this field and how your experiences may have shaped your passion for helping men?
Yeah, I mean, I think my journey into men's health starts way before I got into this business. Last week my daughter graduated high school, right? And I still remember very vividly my wife being 8 months pregnant, coming home from work one day and saying, "Today was my last day." And she kind of passed the baton to me. She's like, "It's on you now." And we had always talked about she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That was her dream. And now I kind of felt that weight of the responsibility to provide for this family. And, I've really, that's been my guiding force in my career ever since then. When I came across the Gameday men's health concept, it really just spoke to me as a man, right? I've been through, decades of struggle and the effort that it takes to provide for family and do all the things that's required of us. And I know how hard that can be. And so, I saw this as an opportunity, not just to, have an interesting business opportunity, but really to make a difference in helping men improve their lives.
Well, that sounds like a pivotal moment in your life to make that decision to focus on men's health. As a CEO of Gameday Utah, what were some of the early challenges you may have faced when establishing or helping to establish this network of clinics, and how did those experiences kind of fuel your commitment to this cause?
So, the reason that I got into this business in particular was that concept of, hey, every business is hard. I knew that going in. I expected the challenges to come. And if you don't have something that drives you more than just, making a dollar, it's not going to be enough. And so I came in with that kind of mission driven or purpose driven approach. And, everything is hard. Everything about starting a new business is hard. Hiring people, getting the right people on the team is a challenge. You're trying to decide, every job we post, we get over 100 candidates and try to narrow that down to the one best person, and then finding out, a few weeks in that maybe you made a mistake. That's a challenge. And I've certainly made that mistake many times. Um, and then, everything from trying to, get the doors open. It is a medical business. And so there's a lot of regulatory hoops for us to jump through. And you learn that as you go through every problem you solve. Seems like if the Hydra spurs 3 new problems that need to be solved. And that's just the nature of it, and to me, it's fun. That's my version of fun. And maybe something's wrong with me, but it's just problem solving. And when we opened our first clinic a little over 2 years ago, we had 0 patients coming. That's how you start out. You start from 0. And seeing that first guy come in and do the blood test. We do free blood testing, right? So guys come into the clinic, we do a blood test to see their testosterone levels. That's so foundational to men's health. We test that every single time. And our first signups start coming in. It's like, okay, like this is fun. But the aha moment for me was recheck guys 6 weeks into their journey on testosterone, right? So the guys start coming back now. We were 6 weeks into the business, and we're doing our first round of follow-up appointments. And I can just see these are the same guys I met 6 weeks before, and they are literally different. Like, you can see the light has come back on in their eyes, and they're like excited to come in this time. The first time, maybe they're kind of nervous, kind of timid. And now they're like, hey, these guys look at me in the eyes like, Jon, like, this has literally changed my life. You don't even know how grateful I am. We had one guy who said, I didn't tell you this the first time I came in, Jon, but I was considering ending my life. And when I came in, I had been trying to find solutions to my depression and my mental health problems for over 10 years. Nothing had worked. And I was kind of like, I saw your ad and I'll give this one last college try. And I was, I didn't know. I'm glad I didn't know. That was pretty heavy. And he said, I still have some depression, but I finally have the hope that I can solve this. And I finally have the motivation to go get back on track. And those moments for me, Thurl, were like, this is everything I thought I was getting into. And it was the biggest payday you can imagine. And that's kept me going the whole time.
Yeah, and we're going to dive more into the mental health side as well. But, Gameday Men's Health is your approach is to redefine how men approach their health. And why do you feel it's crucial, first of all, for men to prioritize their health, and talk about some of the barriers that keep men like us from doing that?
So going back to kind of where I started with my own journey, right, as a father, a new father, and 15, 20 years of or I guess now 18 years of being a father, I'm used to kind of putting myself last, right? I'll spend money all day long on my kids, my wife, their activities, their passions, their pursuits, but I won't spend an extra $10 on getting the nice protein for me, right?
It's true.
It's just how it is. Like, that's just, I don't know if we're all hardwired that way to put ourselves last. But I think what I've learned is, that has its place. Certainly you don't want to become a me first or a selfish person. But if you don't take care of your own self, if you neglect yourself too much, then you're just not going to have anything to give. Yeah. And I think that was a big realization for me that, hey, if I take care of myself, I have so much more to give back to my family. When I come home from work now and I have energy and I want to hang out with the kids and I want to do activities with them, and like, it's way more enjoyable for everybody than me just coming home, just beat, and all I want to do is, sit in front of the TV for a couple hours and then, clock out for the day and go to bed. Like, that's not, I guess I didn't realize that all that sacrifice that I thought was benefiting them was actually just, it was going too far. And so you have to find that balance.
Well, you're right. And I think often sometimes, because I think all men at a certain level kind of go through that, but not taking care of yourself is in a way a little selfish as well, because we want to be there for our
Yeah.
families, right? We want to help give them a good life and be around as a father, but um, to have that priority to make sure we're doing the things that we need to do to continue to do those things we love to do for our family. So that's a great point, John. You emphasize creating a comfortable environment for men who are seeking that kind of help that you just talked about. Why is it so essential to address that stigma, right? The stigma that's around issues like low testosterone or ED or erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things that is common in our industry, in the healthcare industry, men don't like going to the doctor. They don't like sitting in a stuffy waiting room. They don't like having their time wasted, right? How many times have you gone to the doctor only to sit in the waiting room for 45 minutes to wait your turn? And so, Gameday Men's Health was really designed around the man and what they're looking for, right? You come into one of our clinics and you've seen it. We had you
I
come in
have.
the door and it's like, this is cool. It's like a lounge, there's big screen TVs, ESPN on all of them. We've got snacks and drinks. All the staff is super friendly. When you come in, there's nobody else here for the most part. I mean, there might be a couple of guys doing a quick thing, but really we do it by appointment, and it's all designed around, hey, when you show up, we're ready. Let's go.
Yeah.
If you're going to be in that chair, getting a blood draw within a couple minutes, and we're going to start spinning down. Look, we're doing your labs right here while you're here. So you have maybe a couple minutes of downtime waiting for your labs to get done. But, within 45 minutes or whatever it is, you get lab results, you meet with the provider, you go through a health history in depth. We understand what your goals are. We have a customized treatment plan ready for you, and you can get started. And so, that concept is like, hey, we're not going to waste your time. We're going to make it enjoyable. We're just cutting down the barriers, and it's kind of a cool brand, like that, Gameday. It's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I've been watching, Gameday on Sports Center for 20 years, Saturday mornings. And so, I didn't come up with the brand obviously, but when I heard Gameday Men's Health, I'm like, yeah, I would go there. Like I knew I would want to be a part of that before I even learned all the details. And so that's just, again, the whole thing is designed around making the experience make sense for the modern man.
Well, you mentioned me coming and having that experience. It was interesting when I came in for my consultation. I walked in there and it kind of felt like I was walking into the locker room, or the high level NBA locker room with with the couches and the TVs on. I think you had one of the games on, so it was really comfortable.
Yep.
And I think one of the things that a lot of men associate, and you don't necessarily have to be a big sports person, but it's just that feeling that like you're in this comfortable atmosphere. You got your snacks over there. I'm going to grab a little drink. I'm going to just chill out right here. Kind of like a man cave in a way,
Yeah.
a really upscale man cave. So how does the culture of Gameday Men's Health differ from like traditional experiences? You kind of described that somewhat in the approach when men walk in. But are there any other strategies that you have to make men feel more at ease when they walk into the Gameday?
Yeah. So I don't know if there's a strategy or just more cultural, but, healthcare at large, I feel like, and maybe this is too waxing too like philosophical, but, this healthcare system is designed around like people who are sick.
Mm-hmm.
And so many guys, they go into a doctor and they're like, I've got all these symptoms. I've heard about testosterone. Can you get my levels checked? And we hear this all the time. The doctors will say, hey, you're fine. You're just getting older. We don't need to check that. And if they can persuade the doctor to check it, then their levels come back and it's like the range of normal is, this big. I don't know if you see my hands, but it's huge. I think it's 200 to 1,000 on our devices. That's normal, right? But I can tell you from experience, if your levels are 200, 300, you're probably not feeling good. So you might be normal, but you're not optimal. And so there's a level of, I don't know if I'd say shame or stigma, but even in the medical community at large, the traditional healthcare model, I should say, where it's like, hey, if you're in the normal range, you're fine. Stop complaining. We're not going to put you on those treatments. And so our approach is very different. Obviously, we are medical as well, but maybe more forward thinking in that we're thinking about not just how do you feel today and getting you feeling better today, but we want you feeling great for 10, 20, 30 years from now as well. And, not just extending your life, but extending your quality of life. And so that optimization approach is very different. It's not just, what is the absolute bare minimum we can do for you medically. It's kind of the opposite. Hey, what's the most we can do for you to get you feeling your best, looking your best, being at the top of your game? And, that's, LeBron James and some of those top athletes, they cracked that code long ago. Investing in your body and your health pays off. Obviously these are pro athletes, right? And you've been a pro athlete, you get it. But it's an apt analogy for life that the men who are investing in their health today in their 40s, 50s, 60s are the men who are going to be feeling great and running around playing golf still in their 80s, 90s, right? And the guys who are neglecting their bodies in their 40s are the guys who are maybe not even going to be around in their 80s and 90s, right? So that's our approach. It's the holistic, it's the long term. And so every single guy who comes in with a request, it's like, we're looking for how can we get to a yes, safely for the goals that you have, rather than how can I talk you out of this thing that you've already done your homework on and tell you, well, I know better because I'm the doctor.
Well, I certainly hope a lot of my peers are going to be watching this episode, because it's tough sometimes seeing a lot of these guys' health fail them after they've been in such a amazing position health-wise when they played. So my next question to you is, what lifestyle changes do you recommend for men looking to maintain or improve their testosterone levels, or even their overall health?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not going to break any new ground right now. Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Are you well hydrated? Are you exercising, right? So resistance training, particularly, basic compound lifts like a squat, a deadlift. If you haven't been to the gym in 20 years, don't walk in and do deadlifts tomorrow. Maybe work with a trainer. But if you're doing these things, if you're taking care of the basics at a top level, you might still have a low testosterone problem. Any same as a diabetic might still have low insulin, right, in their bodies. It's a hormone that your body produces or doesn't. But certainly taking care of your body is going to give you the best chance at feeling good, at having overall good health. And so, we actually start most of our consults that way. Like, tell me about your sleep, your sleep habits. What time do you go to bed? What time do you wake up? How often do you wake up during the night? How often do you stay up past 2 a.m.? So we kind of ask some of those questions. Tell us about your diet. And so understanding those things, you can guide a lot of positive improvements. And it's no money in our pockets to have you go eat better or have you sleep better. But you might get, halfway there just by making good choices. And then you can kind of see what's left. Because again, you can do all that right. And it's like, I still don't quite feel right. Well, let's get you on some testosterone. More than half of men that we see need testosterone, regardless of any lifestyle changes they might be able to make. And then the testosterone itself gives them added motivation and energy to pursue those additional lifestyles. So it's like, it's a double whammy. You feel better, you have more energy, and now you have the motivation to go make additional changes. And it just builds and builds on itself to where you become, within a relatively short amount of time, not unrecognizable to those who've known you for 20 years. But for those who haven't known you for 20 years, they're like, who is this guy? My wife, her comment to me a few weeks into treatment was, you're fun again. Was like, I wasn't fun. She's like, you weren't as fun, you were just kind of tired. And she's like, it's fun to have you back. So it's not that I became this new person. I became the best version of me.
Oh, that's great information. Great information, John. And we're talking to Jon Benson, CEO of Gameday Men's Health Utah. We will be right back with more health conversation. Stay with us on Rise and Grind. Hey guys, time out. You give your best to your work, your family, and your responsibilities. But to keep showing up strong, you've got to stay dialed in. At Gameday Men's Health, the nation's leading men's clinic, they help you get back in the game with a custom game plan built around your labs, your goals, and your performance. Testosterone, peptides, real optimization. Come in today for a free testosterone test and consult. Tell them Big T sent you, and you get 50% off your first year membership. GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Victory starts within. Welcome back to Rise and Grind, everybody. We're having an amazing conversation about men's health today with Jon Benson, CEO of Gameday Men's Health Utah. And John, let's get into the mental health part. As a passionate advocate for men's health, how do you see the link between the physical wellness and the mental health part, especially in your clients' interactions? I know you gave us a story about one of your clients, but let's speak about that mental health part a little bit deeper.
Yeah. So, first of all, we don't treat mental health here directly. That's not part of what we do. It's more indirect. But the link between body and mind is, long been discussed and shown and proven. You're a former pro athlete, and so you've seen it. Everybody at the top of their games are working with, the best performance coaches, and a lot of that is the mental side, right? Your mentality, the way that you train, a lot of that is just a mental fortitude that you have and you bring to the game. And so, I'd say to anybody struggling with any kind of mental health challenges, and men in particular, get the help that you need. And there's no shame in asking for help. In fact, I would say, to your comment earlier, Thurl, it's kind of selfish not to get the help, because if you're struggling, you're not yourself, you're not able to show up for the people who count on you. And so, get the help that you need. There's a very strong link between the body and the mind. And so we focus on the physical side of that equation. When you're not feeling good physically, your mental health suffers as well. And it goes the other way around. And so, we focus on, how do we get you feeling great physically? Our primary treatment here is testosterone and hormone replacement therapy. And certainly having low testosterone affects your mental health in a big way. I mean, it touches many different systems, physically and mentally and emotionally. And so, one of the first things that guys notice on treatment with us is how much better they feel. We call it life enjoyment. It's kind of an industry term for, you just enjoy life again. And it sounds funny until you've experienced it. But how many guys are just not experiencing the things they used to? They used to love golf or fishing, and now they don't really do those things anymore. And you think that life just kind of overtakes you and you get too busy for it. And that is true to a degree. But part of it is you just don't enjoy those things. And so, these are warning signs that you should pay attention to, that you're just not yourself. If you're not enjoying, you used to love fill in the blank, basketball. I used to love playing basketball with my kids, and now I never do it. That's probably a yellow flag, at least, that something might be off and worth checking out. We focus on the testosterone thing here, as well as other things, obviously, that we do here. But you take care of the machinery. That's a engine light, right? Is going off in your brain if you're not feeling good. And there's a lot of things that you could say you're not yourself. Check in with people around you, loved ones, because a lot of them will say things like, "Hey, are you okay? You don't quite seem, you haven't seemed yourself, or you seem a little bit off." Those comments you should pay attention to as well, because the people who are around you and observing you from the outside, they know it. So, I would just encourage everybody, get the help you need, because, we value human life. You have value as a human. inherently, and it's not, it's not something you need to hide from. Just go get the help.
Yeah. I like what you said. Take care of the machinery. Man, that's straight to the point. You talked about some of the other things that you do there. Let's expound on those.
Okay, so Gameday has a core four of treatment options. Hormone replacement therapy being number one. Number two is weight loss. Super common now and more well known. The GLP-1 drugs, the miracle drugs for weight loss. These drugs truly are miraculous. I've seen it change so many people's lives, men and women both. They work well, but do them properly, do them under medical supervision. We are very, very careful about the sources we get these prescriptions from. You can get this stuff from, cheap online options now, or with or without, doctor oversight. Everything we do at Gameday is done right. It's done correctly. You can be assured of that. From the sourcing to the medical oversight, making sure that these treatments are good for you, that you're having frequent check-ins with the medical practitioner. And so, weight loss, number two. Number three would be sexual wellness, which is obviously something that is important. If you're in a relationship, having a healthy sex life is critical to maintain that relationship long term. And so we want to make sure that you can show up your best. I think the term erectile dysfunction is doing a disservice to this industry, because dysfunction sounds like there's something wrong with you.
Right.
People think, hey, I'm not 80 years old. I don't have ED. And it's like, okay, but are you performing the same you were 10 years ago or 20 years ago? The answer to that's probably no, right? And so we like to use the word erectile optimization, or EO. It's like, hey, just get a tune-up on the machinery, go back to that analogy. A little tune-up, and we have great services here, from shockwave therapy to P shots to all the pills and things, of course, that people are familiar with. And so it's just making sure, again, that you're showing your best as your best in your relationship. And so that's a key part of men's health, physically and mentally. And then finally is the peptide category, which is super exciting. There's peptides for so many different things now. We focus here on performance and recovery peptides. So things that can help you burn fat, gain muscle, improve your recovery from injuries, short and long term. And then just longevity peptides, making sure that you're aging your best. And so peptides kind of this whole own category. There's sleep peptides. I mean, there's peptides for kind of everything coming out these days. Very exciting area of medicine. Something that we do really well here at Gameday, and something we're very excited about. And those are our core four services.
So, John, looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of Gameday Men's Health, and what impact do you wish to have on the conversation surrounding men's health overall?
My hope for Gameday, and I'm just the Utah guy. Gameday is a big network. There's over 400 Gamedays nationwide, started by a guy named Evan Miller, who's a good friend of mine in California a few years back. The future for Gameday is bright. It's the largest men's health network in the country. And we have our little corner here in Utah that we're proud of. There's a handful of owners that own different locations. I have the Bountiful and Cottonwood Heights location. And so my aspirations, if you want to call it that, or my hopes for Gameday, is that it continues to be the leading brand for the next 10, 20, 30 years in men's health. The treatments are going to evolve. That's expected. And Gameday is going to be at the front of that. I can tell you that with certainty. We already have the big pharmaceuticals. They come to us first now and say, hey, we've got this new thing that we're working on. We'd love to roll this out in Gamedays. We're very selective. I've been aware of some of those conversations that happen at the corporate level, not my level, but very selective about what's brought into the system, making sure it's done well, that it's safe, that it's effective, and it's not just the latest and greatest fad. But I think men's health in 10 years could look very different than it does today. Maybe testosterone is administered in different routes or different things. Maybe it's not testosterone that we're talking about in 10 years. But the Gameday will be part of that conversation and should be the leading voice in helping shape those decisions. But we just want to do what's best for men and make sure that, my goal here in Utah is to help as many men as possible. I think that when men are feeling great and they're doing their best, they're going to be the strongest voice they can be within their families, within their communities, and they can do the most good if they're at the top of their games. And that's why I'm passionate about it. That's why I got into it. That's what's going to keep me going long term here.
Well, Jon, you just talked about you've got Gameday Men's Health has many locations across the country. Right now, you're speaking to thousands and thousands of men out there. What's your final advice? What final advice would you give men who may be hesitant to really take that first step to addressing their health issues? Speak to them.
My advice is go into a game day. There's probably one close, in your community with how many we have. You can go in, it's literally free. It's going to be an enjoyable experience. Maybe the blood draw itself isn't your favorite thing, but that's going to be a quick pinch and you're done. You're going to get real answers from a real medical practitioner, and it's going to cost you nothing. You literally have nothing to lose except maybe an hour of your time, but you can get real answers, real information that's going to inform your health choices for decades. And so, if you're hesitant, I understand it. I've been in your shoes. You kind of think, what is this? Does this company have my best interest in mind? We've treated hundreds of thousands of men across the country, and that number is only growing. And so my advice would be just go, bite the bullet and go in. Take the time to do it. And, at the worst, you come out with your testosterone number and a free granola bar and a soda. And you're on your way. At the best, you can find that there's some ways you can really improve your life, and it's not expensive, and it's going to make you, the best version of you.
Jon, great information. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing this with us. There's no question that we as men need to take better care of ourselves so we can continue to take care of the ones that we love. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for this enlightening episode of Rise and Grind. We hope Jon Benson's insights into men's health and his passion for empowering others resonated with you. I want you to remember that prioritizing your health is so essential, and there are resources available to help you on that journey. As you move forward, keep in mind the importance of taking actionable steps towards your well-being, just like Jon encourages. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with friends or anyone who might benefit from Jon's message. Join us next time for more inspiring stories and practical advice on how to rise above challenges and grind towards your goals. Until then, keep rising and grinding and take care of yourselves.